lie. Welcome to the players' loud. Yeah, when no other moment, man, it can't compare.
Welcome to the 48-hour rule, a UteNation podcast. The 48-hour rule is now in effect. Everybody, welcome back to another edition of the 48-hour rule, a UteNation podcast. It's a happy week this week. Utes get back on the winning track, and definitely a little bit of some surprises going into that game to see how Utah did it. We're going to be talking about that a little bit and kicking over into the Cincinnati game. But as always, I'm your host, Alex Markham. Got Zack Moss with me, as always, and our guy Brian Blechen back for his second time on it. How you guys doing?
Good, man. All good. How you been?
Man, doing a lot better than last week, man. Like I said, dude, I was so drained from that BYU week, dude.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to be able to kind of unwind from that and see the guys get a nice W and have some good things to talk about as opposed to kind of talking everybody off the ledge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's much better vibes this week coming off of a big win that you could have went home at halftime, really. So that's always
good.
But yeah, it was a really good week for those guys, beating down on Colorado. I didn't expect that in that fashion. I don't think too many people would say they did. But it was good to see the guys just respond in a certain type of way and not kind of just cave in and understand that they still got something to fight for. Obviously they became bowl eligible with that one. And still everything is essentially in front of them still, as long as they handle their business and stuff like that. But that was a good way to kind of start a different phase of the season, right? Kind of get through that BYU game being right there where it was. Now it's time to kind of just push through these last four or whatever it is because, like I said, they still got everything in front of them. So they definitely played that way too.
For sure. Ryan, how you doing, man? You got the Utah Islanders season done now, so we're going to be able to get you on a bunch of these that much more. It's going to be a fun time, man.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Like you guys said, the first thing that came to my mind, better than this time last week. Last week, was a bummer. And I think you hit it on the head as far as just, good or bad, win or lose that rivalry game. It's kind of like it's almost like its own season, different from, the rest of the teams you play, and different as far as the kind of momentum that can come with it. I think it's different than, every other team you'll play. And shoot, last 2 years BYU, or last year, I think they said BYU lost their 2 games right after the rivalry game, after beating us. So, that could happen to us. And yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to see was, hey, let's bounce back from that game. That rivalry could have gone, BYU game could have gone either way. But let's bounce back from it against a Colorado team that I thought usually plays, I think, maybe a little better than they play. I see them play other teams. The last few years, I thought they've been a team that kind of, stands up against us. I lost a few times to them back in the day. Like Thanksgiving games, late when, hey, all we need to do is beat Colorado. It was when they just first started out, so they're last place in the conference. All we got to do is beat them, and this game goes that way, this game goes that way. We're in the championship, and, they spoiled it for us at least once, at least for me. And yeah, just over the last few years, they usually play us tough. I think they like to come in and match our physicality, and this year was definitely different than what I've seen because it was over quick, like you said.
Yeah, damn sure was.
Before asking you a little bit about this game, then kicking into other stuff, because like I said, we've already done the post game. Zach, you're usually on the post game. You weren't this week. Obviously you had some friends in town from Alumni Week. I know, Brian, you had your family, but when it comes to you mentioned something with BYU from last year that I want to touch on, but from Utah's perspective. Okay, BYU won. I mean, BYU lost one. I think their next two games, like you mentioned, after beating Utah, right? But with Utah, what it's kind of been over the years is like when there's been those big game letdowns, it seems like Utah always kind of bounces back and recovers. It's just that whole Utah mentality on not, if you get knocked down, you're not going to stay down forever. Obviously, last year was a different breed. It was a different story just because of everything that had gone on. But why is that Utah's culture? Why is it that you guys over the years have always been able to maybe get knocked down briefly and just always recover and come back in such dominant fashion?
I think Coach Wood is, and the entire staff has always been able to preach adversity is going to visit you at some point in life, specifically just football. But I want to get the saying correct. It visits everybody, but it stays with the weak or something like that, right? Like, the strong people, the strong teams can prevail through that, and wins and losses, they come, right? Like that's a part of adversity, and it kind of shows the character, the leadership, all those different things on a certain type of team you have, right? Like the maturity also, right? That's why you always want to stay as even killer as possible. I think even just in life, right? Like, okay, you had a big win in something, right? Like you could be financial or whatever it may be, right? And how do you respond from that, right? Like, do you allow that one big thing now to affect your everyday life, right? And I think, the guys over there have just, been able to preach that in a certain way that it's been able to be received, right? I think almost a lot of locker rooms say that, right? But the way they've been able to do it, guys have just been able to buy in and believe into it and things like that. And, even after wins, nothing changes. Like, that's the thing I think too, is like, our week is the same week. We don't get, okay, we won. Maybe we don't put on pass on the days that we usually put on pass, or maybe cut a few periods out of practice, right? Like, same thing when we lose. It's the same thing, right? There's no difference on how business is conducted. So I think when you don't have different things happening, right? You don't see this, you don't see that. You're like, okay, right? I think it's normalcy, right? So it's back to work. How do we continue to get better, right? And there's no one just overly just patting you in your back and things like that. So those guys have done a good job at that, and we've been able to see that through the years. And it helps when you're not playing a really, really good opponent, obviously, at the same time. Like, Colorado, I feel like has a little bit more respect, definitely for myself coming into this week, that last weekend, just because I'm like, man, they have been battling with certain teams. Like, they have stayed in some tight games and things of that nature. Specifically the one I thought about was the one they actually played versus BYU early in the year, right? And they lost 24-21. And I was like, okay, well, we just lost to BYU, right? Like, and it was a struggle. Obviously, I believe Colorado was at home, but still, I was like, okay, that's going to be, very interesting. And, usually they're real coached with Coach Prime and those guys, right? Whenever they're not kicking down pylons. But like, seeing them struggle the way they did was crazy for me, honestly, because I did not expect to come to that game and it be, 43-0 at halftime. But again, you got to give all the credit to the coaches and the players on, literally pushing what just happened, right? Because like Blake said, like, that is an emotional game where you can get derailed from your season really quick, right? With a win or a loss, right? Like, these guys could have came out kind of slow, a little sluggish, playing with their backup quarterback, guy who's making his first start, right? Like, things could have easily went any type of way. But, the guys didn't allow that, and the coaches made sure they had a game plan that was suited and booted, ready to go to go out there and attack. And, it was really a really good thing to see, because it just gives you confidence as you watch this team the rest of the year that, they can do something no matter what happens with the BYU game, right? We talked a lot about that. They can do something at the end of the year still that could, put them in a special place.
Before getting Brian's take on this, man, I caught that, man. I was trying so hard not to laugh and just let you finish and not cut you off, man. Because, oh, man. I mean, dude, it was so funny today getting that clip coming across my feed and Prime opening up that press conference, basically talking about my tweet where, it was something along the lines of, fun fact, Colorado has the 134th ranked rush defense out of 136 teams, right? After getting annihilated by Utah true freshman Bert Ficklin. Meanwhile, their defensive line coach Warren Sapp's out here being a child kicking pylons.
Yeah.
I said what I said. I stand by that statement. I mean, he's not a player anymore, guys. It's just, dude, coach your guys if you want to be considered a serious program. And I think that to me is like one of the roots of the problem, right? Is Dion can go and talk so eloquently on things, right? And so encouraging on things and be so uplifting. And I mean, he's a brilliant football mind, right? But there's still those theatrics that he's just trained to allow around and think that it's all the glitz and the glam and the fun of the show, right? And I mean, there's no way in hell somebody like Kyle Whittingham would let something like that go.
Yeah, no. I mean, those are, you talk about two totally different humans on every way, shape, and form, right? Like, what's made Coach Prime obviously who he is and who he was in the sport realm was the glitz, the glamour, the flash, like, the bravado, all those different things. I think, even with, the previous last 2 years now in Colorado, right? Like, he had guys that were a little bit older, right? That had been around the block a little bit, even if they weren't coached by him, right? Coming in through the transfer portal and things of that nature. So the first 2 years, not to say he didn't have to really essentially coach these guys essentially had an identity of who they were already, right? Like, now this team in Colorado is a lot younger than the years past teams that he's had, right? And it's new faces, right? Like, you got to show these guys what college ball is and what college ball looks like, right? Like, it was a clip of one, I think the quarterback kind of getting the play call in his helmet, and it seemed like he just did not like the play call. A lot of people were making fun about that. And obviously, I don't know if that was exactly why he was making that face, right? But let's just say it is. It's like body language, right, as the quarterback too, right? Like, all of these little small things, they do matter, because as players, like, we go sit in the locker room and we will talk crap, right? As if it's good crap or it's bad crap. Like, that's what is going to happen. And you got, we all just talk, so it's a lot of opinions going, and things can get misconstrued. Like, okay, are we losing faith in these guys? And all these different things. They're not saying that they are, just that, when you have a veteran type team that you come into, but you get these guys transfer, you bring some guys over from your old school that know how you do things, right? You don't really have to mold much there.
Right.
But now you got all these guys that you recruiting, and you're getting in from high school, and you're doing this and you're doing that, right? Like, now we're going to see how good, not just the coaches he is, but the people around you. What does your staff look like? Like, legitimately, like, what does your staff look like? And a lot of people think just because you play football or you play any sport, right, on a pro level, collegiate level, and you may be Hall of Famer or whatever it may be, right, different categories there, that you can coach. That doesn't mean that you can coach, right? That means you may be able to share information, right? But that doesn't mean that you're able to coach, right? And, when you talk about certain guys, I'm not saying, Warren Sapp is not a good coach or he can't coach, but I've seen.
Yeah, just in general, yes.
Yeah, just in general. I've seen, guys who were really good ball players that turned into coaches, but they aren't able to to develop these guys and coach these guys through their weaknesses and, highlight their strengths, because maybe you're a Hall of Famer and you didn't really have many weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that just are in a player that they don't really need a coach to, go back and forth with the really, really good ones, right? Some guys really depend on their coaches to continue to get them better and help them out and all these different things, right? That's why a lot of time in the NFL, the situation matters, right? A lot of these quarterbacks, right? You look at a Daniel Jones, you look at a Baker Mayfield, right? It's not essentially the players all the ways. It's sometimes just the situation and how are you getting the message across, right, to these guys to go out there and put them in the best situation. So, just because you are ex-player doesn't mean you can coach. But at the same time, it's like now we're going to get a real good look into Deion's staff, right? Like it's a lot of good names on the staff, right? Obviously. So it's like, cool, great. It brings in the guys that might want to come, right? But man, you can't be the 134th ranked damn rush defense, in the country and think you're going to be anybody, let alone then show up, right, and let over 100 and 400 plus rushing yards, like technically just to the quarterback almost, like in his first game ever, right? I mean, most people salivate when they play a quarterback his first game, true freshman. Oh, we're going to blitz this dude. We're going to give him every look in the book. We're going to disguise this. Like, I can only imagine if that was Coach Scally on the other side, right? Like, what he would do to a freshman quarterback and try to get into his mind. But those guys over there, man, it was a good game, but it was so boring at the same time because it seemed like they could do absolutely no wrong. And I'm like, bro, it's football. There got to be some wrong in here. Like we gotta go backwards a few times, to make it interesting. It just felt like everything was 15 yards minimum every play. But yeah, we'll see. Until what that staff really looks like, because it's gonna be a different talk. You win only 2 games in your Deion, right? It's gonna be a different talk around you. You only win 2 games this year, for sure.
Sure. Brian, let's get your take on that, and then we'll kick into talking about that offense, the awesome defensive performance, and Bird Ficklin, since Zach just mentioned it right there. But with you, what was it that you saw over the years, when it came to maybe the games where you guys had that letdown, right? But you guys were able to respond so fast and so dominant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Going back to that first question, Zach kind of talked about it a lot. Just weekend, day in, day out, every week. Year round, the standard that you're about to be held to, and like the amount of work we put in, right? So you're ready to put in the work after a big loss, and the coaches are always the same, demanding, what Zach kind of talked about. But I think they do a really good job. I have to give the Utah coaches, Coach Witt, his staff, credit for that week, how they are that week after the loss. You know what I mean? Because I come in and on Monday, I'm pissed. Like, I'm not in a good mood. Like, but I'm also not like, well, I'm going to get better and get a win in 6 days. Like, no, I'm like down in the dumps on Monday. But it was you. I felt like every time it was always the coaches that their energy wasn't going to change or drop. And matter of fact, their energy was, I'm sure Coach Witt probably tell them the night before, like, you better have the most energy as soon as you get here in the morning. Like, because I would get there, and that's who I felt like got the energy from to start each week after a loss was the coaching staff. And when they I'm like, oh, so they're not, Coach Scally's not mad at me, like, or he was, but he really did throw it away now, so that is Monday. And then the coaches are still just coaching you up, putting all their energy and effort into you. So it's like, okay, like they believe, like then I believe, and right away that first day of practice, you're back on board. And they kind of help. For me, that was one thing I always remember was, the coaches were the first ones to put it behind them. So I think that helped me put it behind me. So that'd be my thing to Utah. And then talking about Colorado's coaches, Shoot, we're gonna find out if they can coach, Zach. Because winning streak is one thing, but oh, this is the week. I'm curious to see. They play Saturday, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Arizona at home. They got them at home. But that's a good Arizona team. But at home, I don't see why not. That could be a game where they get real extra stout. And totally bounce back the other way. But that'll be a good test to see. All right, how much effort, how much juice, time did the coaches put into the players, infuse into the players this week to see how they respond.
Mhm. Hey, Prime said Utah gave everybody the blueprint. Arizona's got a good defense, so could be
That was
another
cool
one.
last week. Yeah, so last week when I saw Coach Prime, right, in one of his interviews talking about, he looks up to Coach Witt. He's the Coach Witt's a guy he respects in the coaching realm. He's even said he's a hero to him. That caught me by surprise, but I thought it was pretty cool. And then his hero beat him 53-7, which sucks. But I bring that up because now, shoot, we talk about Utah's been good at bouncing back from losses, tough losses, whatever it may be, or just an ass whooping like this. It's Dion's chance to do that. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to watch that Arizona game. They got Arizona at home, 5 p.m. on Saturday. That's a tough team with Noah Fafita, but no better chance to really show, what can we do as coaches, what we can put, how much time, energy, juice we can infuse into our team by this next Saturday. Shoot, I'll be rooting for Colorado this Saturday.
So I want to give you a chance to actually plug some of the stuff you do, because I also want to make a point on this as well and get your perspective. Okay. After the you were with the Panthers for a bit. Okay. You got done, and then you went to the small school in Colorado. Okay. After that, you ended up coming back here and you're doing the training with Protect Trenches and Anton Palapoy. Do you feel like you were ready coming from the NFL into that coaching role? Do you feel like you were ready to be a coach at that time? Or do you feel like it's those minor little things that you have to do to build up, like you're doing right now with all that great work that you're doing with kids, that makes people, the special coaches that they can be? Because, again, we talk about Dion just throwing certain guys into these roles. I think that you're a good example of, starting off that way, but then taking a step back and now doing the training and going this route. And then who knows where you can take it from here. Obviously you're doing the stuff with the Islanders too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I don't know what it is about, some coaches that go into it and then they end up, not really being able to coach people. I guess you never know till you try. But no, I feel like when I was done playing, I kind of knew I wanted to get into coaching. I've always felt like I really understood ball, and the X's and O's of it, and even just the on field, the no hesitation you have to be able to react with. I felt like I understood ball, and just it always was natural to me. And then getting coached by Scally, I really was like, okay, now I really know ball. Going to the Panthers, they had a complex defense, very intricate, and I got Luke Kuechly handing me his notes the first day of camp. So learned, just was around some really good minds. So after that, I'm like, man, I definitely know enough to feel completely confident going into coach. But yeah, right when I was done, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And doing the training, I think that's definitely helped. It's always you always want to be, as a coach, a good coach can teach different ways, different kinds of people. You know what I mean? Not every one of your players is going to learn the same. So I mean, training high school kids, and then the next hour training a 9-year-old who's trying to go into his first season. I think that only helps me, being able to just, teach who I'm working with. And when it comes to, coaching college and you have a whole team with 50, 60 kids, I think you got to be able to adapt and be able to reach different kids. But yeah, I kind of always knew. Always loved kids. Shoot, I was a part-time PE teacher last fall, and for middle school, that was awesome. Just got to wear, athletic clothes and freaking shoot basketballs, and teach kids what they did wrong all day, but not in the classroom. It was awesome. So, no, I think, but I kind of always knew, even as a player, that when I'm done, yeah, I would love to coach. I looked at Coach Scally or Coach Witt and just all the coaches, and I'm like, yeah, this looks like a fun job. You can tell they're enjoying themselves, and I think if you like ball that much, you like being around the team, the locker room, then I think it's different but similar as a coach. You know what I mean? You're seeing that same table of guys every day working together.
Absolutely, man. Zach, you'd love this, dude. So Brian, when he's talking about training the high school kids and training the 9-year-olds, right? Dude, he goes to select like little Ute League football games on the weekends just to sit there and watch the guys and just root them on, man. That just shows somebody that takes it to the next level when it comes to the training, man. I think that's awesome, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's part of the fruit of the labor, I mean, obviously the compensation's one fruit, but going to see them on Saturday and put stuff you've been working on the field, and watch them make plays. That's what it's all about. I mean, I love watching football no matter the age, if it's good football. You know what I mean? So going to watch a winning team that's doing things right and not jumping off sides, it's awesome, and it's great for the kid too.
For real, Zach. I think you said off air one point, but I think you said you don't want to really do any of that stuff until your boy's ready for football, huh?
Yeah, for me, it'll be until my son gets to that age. I mean, he's 2 now, so put him in a little 7-on-7 ball, something like that, without the contact first for a little second there. And you never know, I might dive into something like that then, because I have a passion for it, right? Like right now, I'm not a natural, when it comes to that part of it, so like when it comes to coaching. So I definitely think, once my son is of age, I'll definitely, want to be around him as much as I can, just give him little, pieces of knowledge, whatever it could be there. And, obviously, and then the other kids on the team as well, right? Like that, then for me, it just all makes sense, right? Like then for me, it all makes sense.
Yeah, for real. And see, like both of you guys with your perspectives right there too. I mean, it draws back perfectly to how we were talking about with some of the hirings that Dion does, right? I mean, Zach, you admit like right now, that doesn't fit you right now, where you would feel like you'd be able to do your best at it,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like it all depends on the space you are at. Like I feel like with the staff those guys have in Colorado, obviously some of those guys have coached before. I doubt he would hire the first time coach right. Out of nowhere. But it is like that's a grueling thing. Like coaching athletes on any level, right? 1, 2. Football specifically, because I've been around football coaches all my life. Like that's a hard thing to do. Like that's a lot of dedication. Like people don't understand like how much a good coach matters. Like there's so many coaches, right? There's so many coaches, but there's only so many good coaches that can actually impact you and change your life and things of that nature. And that's why a lot of times you see guys like talk about, when they played or, sometimes when they go in the Hall of Fame stages, they always give some things back to like the little league coaches, high school coaches, college, whatever it may be, right? Because those people really poured into them, but at the same time also poured into their craft, which takes a lot. Like it takes a lot out of coaches to be there every single day, have the same intensity, right? Like it's not a fun job. I will tell you that. Like it's not a fun job. It's not for everybody, right? Everybody looks at it like, oh, well, you're just telling players what to do. But you really look behind the scenes, right, and see just how much time they put into it. As a player, it'll give you a whole different type of respect for your coach when he does yell at you, right? Because you messed something up. And trust me, he don't watch this. He needs you to do something this way because he's probably seen this thing 1,000 times, right? In just the last 2 nights. So when he's telling you something, right, and he gets mad, he gets pissed that you mess it up, it's not that he's getting mad because he, the coach you should worry about is, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. Like, we'll figure it out, later on, right? Like, you want one of those guys that stay on top of you, right, that just wants you to do the best that you can possibly do and all those type of things. And luckily, I've been able to have a few of those coaches. And then I've also had other coaches that don't do that, right? And you just get a real different type of respect as an athlete. So, when kids can learn that early on, it gives them, in my opinion, probably even better chance of making it to whatever sport at a higher level that they might want to go to. Because now, instead of getting mad and pissed or something like that when your coach is on your ass, you got a different level, you got a different view. It's like, okay, my coach is on me right now because he really wants what's best for me. And I know he's, doing everything he can do just for me, because we're not watching film like that. Like I didn't watch, and this is funny because I didn't watch college, even NFL for the most part. Like, I didn't watch film, like no, like especially college, because for me, running back is different. It's all reacting. Like, if you can't react, then you're dead, right? Like, if you can't see things and do things like that, like, it's not gonna work right now. If I play defense, I would have to definitely watch, because I need to know formations, I need to know this, I need to know that, or I'm gonna just be out there with my head cut off. But I know I didn't need to watch film in the back of my head like crazy, because also, especially in college, like, I know my coach was going overboard. Like, I know Coach McDonald was doing everything in his power to make sure that we were the most prepared group on the team. So when I walked in right into the meeting room for high meetings, like, I got everything I needed versus, throwing this, just putting stuff out there, right? Kind of just making the meeting go long. It was like, no, we got every single thing that we absolutely needed. And it was like literally perfect. So that way I never went into a game and felt unprepared, though. Right? Like, I never went into a game and was like, shit, I don't know what we about to call, like, just like my own playbook, or I don't know what this defense is going to do. I don't know if they like to read and react D-line, the backer's going to be shooting, right? Like, this is a corner blitz team, all these little different things that you kind of need to know. But I always had good coaches that put us in the best position. So I was fortunate. But yeah, no, like, you gotta definitely, appreciate your coaches, man. Like, especially when you get a really good one, man, you gotta really lock in and take full advantage, because there's a lot of guys that don't get that type of coaching.
Absolutely. And I know how highly you regard McDonald, man. So, Brian, curious for you on this, dude. So when you came to Utah, I want to say, and I don't even have it pulled up right now, right? But I've seen it enough over the years. I think Rivals had you ranked the number 12 dual threat quarterback, right? Or was it after?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Dual threat.
Dude, so
Probably higher in the athlete category. I don't know.
if you were coming into college now and you had Jason Beck's offense, how much would you be fighting those guys on staying on offense and resisting going to defense?
Oh, yeah. I'm telling them, hey, Damp's 5'10", coach. I'm 6'2.5". I'm in there. No, I'm fighting for that job for sure. I love his offense. I like the different looks. The ball gets spread around. And it's all really on, the quarterback to make, a lot of those decisions. No, I love Jason Beck's offense. And yeah, if I went back to college, I would be fighting to stay on offense.
So let's hear you guys' take on Bird, man, because that was okay. Again, we can do the nitpicking, right? You can take a look at some of his passes, but at the same time, too, I'll also nitpick those, saying like there were drops. There were some that he fit into tight windows because the receivers weren't getting the separation. And he was putting it where, if his guy wasn't going to catch it, the other guy wasn't going to catch it, right? But he threw some impressive passes, and then that running too. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on just that performance, because that's, I was talking to Sean O'Connell, OC, on ESPN 700 the other day, and he just said, he's like, Alex, man, that was the best backup quarterback performance since you just wouldn't even remember this guy. He played a few years as a backup in the NFL. Brett Ratliff that backed up Brian Johnson, and he had 1 year where Johnson was out, where Johnson was injured. That he ran the whole thing, right? But that was an impressive showing. And Zach, we talked about what percentage Devin should be at before saying, like, look, I can't go, right? I think that changes now after that performance. So talk to me about everybody's guy, Bird.
Yeah, no, Bird had a night. He had a night. He can't say anything more, honestly. Like he had a night. He was locked in. He was dialed in. Like he took everything seriously that week of prep, right? Like he didn't squander his moment. I think he's worked really hard. Obviously, he was not a super highly recruited quarterback, right? Like, and I think he just understood when this moment came. Like he had shown it very flash there when he did get a chance to get into games, right? And now he knew things was gonna be on him, and I'm pretty sure Dampier is a really good leader, man. Like when you really listen to him just speak, right? I could just tell he's a good leader just by hearing him speak in his demeanor and how he delivers messages, right? So I know behind closed doors, he's doing the same things to these guys, right? And I'm pretty sure he was a full supporter of Bird getting the start, and he probably pushed for Bird to make sure he got the start. He also, maybe had one-on-one meetings and things like that just to make sure that one of his fellow teammates was really ready to go and do what he had to go do. And that's just the type of leader he comes off as. Obviously, I'm speculating, but I would put some money on it that he was, definitely encouraging Bird just throughout the week, just making sure he's ready to go, letting him, see what he sees, probably helping him just with all these different things, because he's not running things with the ones, you know what I mean, throughout the year. So that's kind of hard to step into that the week of, but he was ready. Like he did not squander the moment. Like I said, like he did not waste one moment on that football field to give anybody on the sidelines, give anybody in the stadium, give anybody watching behind the screen any doubt on what he could do, right? Like, and that's really, really special to see, because obviously you want him to stay at Utah, obviously, right? Like you want him to stay there. Obviously, Dampier coming back or whatever, that also looks like in itself, right? Like, you got two dudes that can go, right? And, Bird is a really talented runner. Like you said, he made some really good passes too. But I'm not really worried about his passing, because being your first live action game, legitimately, where you got to go down, throw this ball and things moving at you fast. Like you got that catches, you got to give him some time to, allow that to get into the groove of things and stuff like that. But they gave him really easy passes. They gave him a lot of stuff outside that, was going to be clean, open looks and stuff like that. Some of them we just missed and, things like that, which is fine. But you talk about a real dual threat. And right now they got two of those guys in the stable that are legitimately two dual threats. But it does make it interesting for this weekend. It's a big game. Like as a coach, I would hate to be Coach Witt this weekend. Just in the sense of, man, you got ESPN coming in here, right? You got Cincinnati coming in here, and Cincinnati's not a bad team. They're not a bad team.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. Now, the rush defense, and their D line, that goes in our favor, but they are good overall as a team. You got to respect them for sure. You can't look at this game as, nothing. Like every game right now for the Utes is a Super Bowl. That's what it is. It's just, if you want to get to the Big 12 championship game at the end of the year and give yourself a chance, every game is a Super Bowl. Like, you got to have that type of mentality right now. And they got a great opponent. It's going to be a great atmosphere and things like that. But I would hate to be Coach Witt just because, do I sit Dampier, right, to start the game and allow Bird to kind of just continue to play off the momentum that he's had, right? If it was me, I would allow Bird to continue to play in the fact that, you know, Cincinnati doesn't have much they don't have any film on Bird outside of this last game, right? That's an advantage for Utah, right? Same way there was an advantage versus Colorado that they had absolutely no film on this guy. They have no idea how he's going to play, what they're going to call, things of that nature. If you go back to Dampier, right now they have more film, right? That gives them a little bit more comfortability coming into the game. I like us having the wild card piece, which is Bird right now, and allowing him to just go out there and just go do what he's going to do and play the way he's going to play right now. And if you can beat Cincinnati with Bird, you definitely give Dampier another week off that ankle. He was suited up last week, so obviously you still allow him to suit up and be the emergency quarterback if things kind of get a little crazy and, you know, turnovers or something that could happen, right? That kind of inflicts Bird. But I'm rocking with Bird this week. I think you can't stop the momentum. You can't go to Dampier as a starter, say Dampier gets re-injured or is slow or something like that, right? Now you go to Bird. That throws off a player, especially one who's coming off of a night like he just had last week.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. And obviously, the caveat is, if Dampier is 100% healthy, Dampier is QB1. There's no question about it, right? Now, if Bird goes out and beats Cincinnati by at least 17 points plus, you got another conversation on your hands where it's like you want to throw them up. Like, it's a good problem, but I mean, what do you do? So that could be an interesting bridge to cross that I know all of us would love to be talking about next week, right? But Brian, from your perspective, man, you and me were obviously sitting together watching the game. I know that you were extremely impressed with Bird, but just take everybody through your thoughts and just kind of what you see going forward.
Man, I was too impressed with operation. That's the word I'll use. Just that'd be my first compliment to him. Great operation. Like, just everything he did, the execution, the operation of the offense was just so crisp and on time. I never saw. He threw it to the swing route because they all dropped deep. But he decided to throw to that swing route too late, or it was behind him. No, he was playing the game on time, and the operation, as far as I remember, the handoffs, it was all there. Which to me, that was the most impressive part. Was there was no mistake we saw, like a drop snap, was there? I don't think. That would be attributed to nerves. You know what I mean? Just it's like he's just nervous a little. Like, no, he was so cool and collected. And from the jump was operating like he'd been playing every other game before this season. So that was impressive to me. Looking at the passing, I didn't even realize how. All right, he was 10 for 22, 140 yards, but
so not great percentage. But when you look,
not a great percentage, but at least he's hitting the longer throws. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be one thing if it's like, like he was good on the short throws, but he needs to work on down the field. No, I'm looking at the receiving chart, and this guy, 2 for 39, Simmons, 19.5 average, 2 for 36, Davis, 18 average, 2 for 35, Buchanan, 17 average, Bentley, 17 average. Like, so the team averaged 15 yards a catch. So we're still getting those downfield throws that you need to move the sticks and then allow you to run the ball again. So no, I didn't mind his throwing at all. Sure, he missed a couple, but at least he's getting the ball out on time, and it's not completely errant to where it's to the other team. Maybe an overthrow or something. But just the way he was processing things and seemed really comfortable with what he was doing was impressive to me. So I think he killed it. I think Beck did a good job. Calling what they wanted to call with him in there, and I'm sure, like Zach said, I doubt you're wrong that Dampier Dev did everything he could to, show him, hey, this is how you drive this car. Hey, when you put your foot here on the pedal, make sure holding on. I think he tried to help him out as much as he could because I think Devin's a team guy like that,
Yeah.
and I think that's why it was slam dunk. He's a captain. Or leadership, whatever it is, everyone loves his energy. I think the way he carries himself, and so I'm sure he was happy to say, hey Bird, do your thing. And going into this next game, I think I would if Damp's not fully healthy, don't mess with it. Like it's a long season. Bird shows he'll be able to get it in there, and if not, kill it. He's going to give you a fighting chance. He's a dog too. So I say keep him in. Let Damp rest. Let Damp be in his ear and be an extra quarterback or offensive quarterback coach to him during the game, helping him out. But I say let him roll. I think a huge point Zach brought up was the fact they only got one game of tape on Bird. You can't change your offense every single week. But if you only have one game to alter from, because that's all they can look at, I think there's a lot of little just a little sprinkle, just a little wrinkle that it's the same to your offense, but it's not what you showed on film last week. And I think you could do that with a lot of the offense because you're talking about just changing one game's worth of data. You know what I mean? So I like that point a lot. And I think there's no reason. I think I would roll with Bird. I would give Damp an extra week or two to get right. Make sure he's 100 when he comes back. Because Bird wasn't playing. Bird did a great job.
And something that you guys said, talking about one game of tape, right? Obviously he's had other mop-up time, right? The West Virginia game, he did play the second half. I think he only threw 4 passes, though. I can't remember exactly. But, that's just a case in point of, maybe you could take little things from those other performances, but really it's not enough because it's not like enough of in a groove and getting, and just taking that momentum and so on and so forth. He was kind of like restricted and handcuffed to an extent until this game.
Yeah. No, it's for me, as a coach, right? Like not as a coach, if I was a coach, the way I would be looking at it. But from a player standpoint, it's like if I had to pass pro, right, this upcoming week on this linebacker or safety, right, and they just got back from injury, right, or something like that, and I don't know how they rush. Like I don't know what they like to do. Like, okay, is this a speed guy, right, or is he gonna chop his feet and just kind of just read the quarterback eyes and try to jump, hopefully, right, or he's gonna bull rush me, right? Like if I didn't know those things going into the game, like because I don't have the film on this guy, that changes how I can attack him, right? Like you can't attack everybody the same, right? Obviously, when you go play different teams, like so not having as much film on Bird, only having essentially one full game, right, isn't enough for a defensive coordinator to kind of feel super confident, right? Like in most cases, you're probably going to be on the sideline adjusting, right? You're going to be adjusting on the fly, right? Halftime adjustments. You're going to really need halftime adjustments. If Bird is cooking, right? We're talking about if Bird is playing really good, right? Because of the lack of knowledge on him, because that does change things, right? Like versus, okay, if I got 10 tapes of this guy, all right, right now the D-line can get a jump on his snap count. He likes to do a snap count like this, right? Or, when he does this, or when he, just all those little small things, the integral parts of the game that people don't think about. Like Black will appreciate this, right? Like Coach McDermott was my head coach in Buffalo, right? So Kuechly would always come back during like training camp time, right? And it'd be just like this, just in your mind as a player, it's not stupid, but like if you're a fan, you'd be like, oh my goodness, you're really looking at that or thinking about that. Like this dude would, if your mouthpiece is out your mouth, right? Like he would pick up on those different things and from watching it through tape. Like, okay, your mouthpiece out your mouth is probably a run, right? Then you put your mouthpiece in your mouth, it's a pass, right? Where your hand placement is, right? Like just little small things that you don't even know you're doing, right? Okay, looking at his feet, where is this? Like all those things, right? They do matter. And, you know, like the ones that are really, really good, you know, things like that, like they really pay attention to those small things. Like I would always pay attention to like, okay, listen, okay, is this guy's inside foot up, is outside foot up, right? Because when he got his outside foot up, he probably gonna drop, right? Versus if he got his inside foot up, he loading up or something like that, just depending on who the guy is and, you know, his tendencies. But I can pay attention to that stuff if I got film. Right? When we get into them blitz days, right? You just looking like, all right, coach got the thing up there. He's like, all right, right, giving you all the little tendencies and keys to victory versus these guys, right? Like those things matter. You're not essentially able to do that versus Bird, right? Because you only have one full tape, right? So that's for us, like I said, like it's a little small wild card that, you know, even if we win 27-24, you're not probably going to think back to that, right? But it could play just a super small part in the victory versus a loss.
So I want to, in a minute here, kick into, you know, just expectations, what you guys are looking for this game, do the typical to wind it down, right? But, you know, one thing I want to mention, because, again, Zach, this is stuff that we've harped on constantly, right? Now, again, all of us, you know, we're talking about Bird right now, but, again, Dampier is QB1, okay?
Yeah.
Like, he has done nothing to lose it other than be hurt here and there and try to fight through those injuries, right? Now, okay, we'll broach this topic if it gets to that, right? But say we're coming back next week and Utah's beat Cincinnati by 17 plus, okay? And there is maybe a conversation to be had because Bird was the quarterback. Does it change your opinion on who QB1 could potentially be? Because as Brian said it, and Zach, as you and me have constantly said as well, Bird is showing that he can hit on the deep ball.
Yeah. Definitely you have to look at it. And you got to pay attention to it. It kind of, when you're talking there, kind of the first thing that pops in my mind is, you know, obviously Tua and Jalen Hurts at Bama, right? Like, you know, obviously they weren't, you know, far down, you know, game after game, but it was, you talk about two quarterbacks who do something kind of different that gives your offense a different look, right? Bird has some zip on that ball, not to say that Dampier doesn't, but some passes that stood out probably more to us than they have with Dampier, right? So it's like, it's a good and a bad problem to have because it can throw off the rhythm of the offense when you got two different dudes coming in all the time, right? Like it can throw off the rhythm, but at the same time, it keeps defenses on their heels, right? Like it's hard to get a gauge on what you really want to do. Like obviously when Jalen Hurts was in, it was more run centric at Bama, right? With Tua, you can push that ball down the field a lot differently, right? With Dampier, we're more run-centric, short yardage to the sticks type of pass game, right? Like small little things like that, more running after catch type stuff, right? With what we saw last weekend, obviously it's just one game, right? You're talking about one game here. But with Bird, we saw some more passes push down the field a little bit, right? We saw that also the same run game capabilities that you can get to because, to be honest with you, you can put a fat, slow dude he'll probably get 5 yards behind the offensive line right now, right? Like, so the run game part of it, you're not going to look at Bird or Dampier and be like, okay, one or the other is absolutely much better than the other because that offensive line makes anything go, right? What the part you have to look at is the passing game, right? And the threat part, right? Like that is for me the distinction that there has to be. It's like, okay, run game is a wash. If we put both of these dudes back here, they can go get 200 rush yards, right? Like passing game, who can push this ball, the touch. The good quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks can throw guys open. They don't just throw the route, right? Like they don't just throw the route. They don't just throw. They can throw guys open. And Bird probably has the potential to do that. It's still we haven't seen it. We know this season that Dan Pierce is not going to do it. It's just what it is. It's fine, but he's not going to do it because he's had the larger sample size and it hasn't happened yet. So with Bird, you can just have a little optimism and be like, okay, maybe we'll see, right? Like, and I think that's the part also where I'm like, yeah, I'm all in on Bird this week, even if Dan Pierce is closer to 80 or 90. Like, that's just my part of things, right? So you got to look at it like that a little bit. And then, if Bird does go out there and, do what he has to do, and you, like you said, beat these guys by, 2-3 scores, right? You come back in after the game, if you're Coach Witt, you come in on Sunday, you're like, yo, like who gives us the best chance to win, right? Like, and that's a hard thing to be in that predicament, but it's like, okay, Nick Saban, when you look back what Saban did, right? Like he interjected Tua into that game because they were not going to win that game on the way the game was being asked to be played with Jalen, right? Tua came in and he changed the game, the dynamic of it because of the passing ability, right? But then the following year, you got, okay, this passing game isn't what's going to win this game. It was the rushing attack that ended up winning that game, the following year or whatever it was, when Jalen now stepped in for Tua, right? So it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, both of these guys can run. The passing game has to be at the front fold because that's what we've harped on. That's what I've harped on this year. That's how you're going to beat these guys. Just anybody going forward and get where you want to get to. And he just adds a different layer to the offense. But like you said, Dan Pierce QB1 until otherwise. Like I've been satisfied overall with his play. But at the same time, if you're a coach, you do have to sit back and look at it and be like, okay, if Bird goes out here, has another big-time game, you just got to let it ride out until it fizzles out, right? And then, you can kind of go back in with your guys. Like, will we be looking at the Patriots right now, the way we look at the Patriots dynasties, if Belichick was like, oh, well, let me put my $100 million man back in versus – leaving the 7th-round guy who got a little bit of a hot hand, right? You talk about two really great coaches who've been able to make that call, right? Like Coach Bliss not in that predicament, obviously, right now, because their game, the Cincinnati game, we have not come out on the other side victorious in a big win yet. So it's all, speculation here, but that would be a position that he would be in, that he would have to make the right call, which I don't know how that'll go.
It's speculation. It's nitpicking, like we've talked about, because Dan Pierce's done great. Like when he's been healthy, he's been a stud, right? But again, there is the nitpicking on certain things that you just have to do when you're getting back and wanting to be honest with the fans, right? That's why everybody loves this podcast and just appreciates you guys. Is you guys talk about things the right way with pointing things out, but also knowing and coming from the those guys' shoes, right? But at the same time too, it's also, if this happens, this is a good problem that any program wants to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Hey.
I need to see Bird against Cincinnati. And I don't think they'll do what Colorado did, because he did come out ready. Bird came out, right away. But then they didn't give any resistance. So like the volume of his rushing this last game is like, all right, well, they just rolled over once we, after a drive or two. But no, I want to see him against a challenge, and then we might be in this ballpark as far as conversation.
For sure. So let's kick into what you guys want to see, what you guys expect with the Cincinnati game. You guys can talk general and broad on it, but I also kind of definitely want to hear, like, Zach, how would you attack the Cincinnati defense? Brian, it's a very RPO based offense. They're down. I don't know that you saw this. They're actually down their home run threat running back. He's most likely going to be honest what they're saying, right? But at the same time, too, they also still have their guy that has the majority of the carries that is averaging just over 5 yards a carry as well. So it's a tough offense, and running quarterbacks, as the Sorsby guy is, tend to give Utah issues. So let's hear how Utah is gonna have to attack this and be able to come out victorious from both of you.
Yeah. First of all, I think we pull it out, no problem. I think it's going to be a challenge. I don't think it'll be as close as a Texas Tech game. I think Cincinnati is a good team, but I think we can exploit them in different ways that we weren't able to do versus Tech. So I'm just thinking about the big picture game, right? Like, obviously, with ESPN coming in, all this different type of stuff, just to give the fans just a good picture of what I think on, with all the hoopla going on around the stadium and things like that. Like, it's not on that level. This game is not on that level of the competition versus Cincinnati and versus Tech, to me. So I think for us, I think I saw something earlier where they're not that good as a D-line front. They're in the bottom part of that in the conference. So if our O-line is not licking their chops, I'm sure they are. I'm sure Coach Harden has those guys, ready to roll. He's going to have those guys ready to roll. And I saw Parker, he hit his first 100-yard game, right? So what's better than going two straight, right? Like, you're going up against a team, for me personally, I always, anytime we play a team that, was definitely somewhere in the middle or definitely in the back, like, I wanted to know that. Like, I always want to know, okay, how good is their rush defense? Like, I don't care about their pass defense. Like, I'm not catching the ball.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I always want to know the rush defense. And for me, like, if I'm thinking about playing Cincinnati, I'm like, man, coach, I got to have this ball 20 times, right? Because that's 20 opportunities for me to go ahead and change the face of this game. So this is an opportunity for him to now have another big game. Rodgers in there is included, and obviously the quarterbacks, whichever one of them are going to go out there and start this thing off. And that's the way, for me, I think we have to attack these guys, is build off that momentum, man. You talking about 400 plus yards of rushing offense last weekend. That's not, like, even though they rolled over and they kind of gave up and things like that, they did in the first couple drives. Like, they were out there fighting in the first quarter. So, like, we got to come out there with that same energy, that same momentum, carry that momentum over into this weekend. And because they got a chance. It's not a stout D-line. So I think the way we have to attack them is through the run game, lean on that once again. That's what's going to carry us and get us where we want to get to. And, Cincinnati is a good offensive team, right? They're going to give us some challenges. Like you said, they're a little RPO type team, and they've been able to be really good at that. They haven't lost a game since the first game of the year.
7-0.
Yeah. So, but they also haven't played a team in the way we play, right? Either. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup. I think it's the first time the University of Cincinnati has ever played University of Utah ever in history.
Let's see if it shows that easy. And then the weekly release, it says so Cincinnati's the number 65 rush defense in the country. So that just means with what Utah has been doing to everybody on the ground, for the most part, Cincinnati's going to leave this game probably 80th or 85th or higher. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything about these two haven't played before. Okay. So there you go.
Well, Utah has an 80% win. They have them favored to win out there in Vegas. So I mean, you open up talking about an 80% chance to win your favorite by 80%. Like, obviously, it's not going to be cakewalk by no stretch of imagination. I believe the first 2 quarters, it'll be some type of a stalemate for sure. Just getting a feel for each other, and things like that, and kind of seeing how this game is going to go. Plus, it being another night game, these guys are, out there on the East Coast. That's 10 p.m. 10:30 almost that this game is kicking off for these guys that they're going to have to adjust to on the fly. Especially it's going to be colder, right? All these little different small things that are going to pop up is going to impact this game. But I think definitely the run game is going to have to be the driving force like it was last week, even if it's just 250 yards. That's still a win. That's still a really, really good night on the ground, having 200 plus rushing yards. So I think that's our keys to victory for me.
So before kicking over to Brian, one of the things that you were talking about with their 7-game winning streak and then the ESPN Gameday being in town, the one thing I'll interject on this stuff is, everybody talks about this so-called curse that Utah's had lately because they've struggled with the big noon games and with when they've came to do the show, and then also game day lately. To me, I feel like the pressure's on Cincinnati because they've won 7 games in a row.
Undefeated in conference. Yep.
Right. The likelihood is they're going to get knocked off their high horse pretty soon, right? And when it hits that 7-game in a row point and you have a game on the national level like this, it's going to be tougher for them. Now you add to the fact that so they put their graphic out for the game. Okay. They're kicking off at 10:15 Eastern time. So have fun with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a late game, really late game for them.
For real. So Brian, let's hear how you would attack Cincinnati. Obviously Morgan kind of threw some new aggressive wrinkles in last week, right? I don't know if you expect that to continue, but and then obviously Utah struggled a little bit over the years with the running quarterbacks. So how would you go about them? And then anything general you want to say with how Utah should go about the game?
True. I would play off of that. You got to run the ball, and knowing that supposed or according to the performance ratings, the D-line's the worst in the country. I was just looking at their season stats, and there's a linebacker and then 2 safeties that are like leading the team in tackles. So those guys are probably good, but it's not that good when you have 2 safeties and the top 4 tacklers on your team. But 65, you said 65th rush defense.
65th rush defense. Yeah, they're giving up about 141 a game.
So, maybe they feel fast. But I don't know. I think it's something that, these guys must just be, filling holes fast, getting downhill fast to knock out these runs. Probably because it doesn't sound like their D-line can, hold double teams forever, things like that. So I think you establish the run, and then you try to play off of it too. Thinking, all right, first down, here we go to run again, knowing you're going to get guys, the secondary is fast to help their D-line in the run. I think you'll be able to dial up some good, maybe some new play actions or stuff like that, but I definitely think, we got to establish that run. I think special teams got to be on point. That's something that I think, just even shoot in college, it's not easy to get a good punt return. So even just 25-yard punt return, which gets you towards something like midfield, that's something that could give a whole sideline momentum. So I think we got to come out fast, but be locked in on all 3 phases. Because if you don't, let them get little momentum boosts and stuff in that first half, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to put that team away with, the physicality Utah brings. I'm sure it's cold in Cincy, but I don't know, maybe it's coming up to the altitude too. But definitely your first time playing at Rice Eccles, the pressure's on them. Because once you get in here, you're gonna be like, what the hell is wrong with all these people? And yeah, no, you're locked in the cage with us until those 4 quarters are up. So first time ever, I think that's tough. I mean, it's tough to play away versus home, let alone play somewhere you've never been. Your entire university's never been. So no, I definitely think pressure on them because of their record, right? They're above us right now. They got the pressure to keep winning, but then also I think it's pressure to you're coming to a undiscovered, they never landed here before. We're gray on their map. If they got to discover this location. So it's going to be tough.
For sure. Defensively, how would you attack their RPO style, knowing that they spread the ball around? And they've got a quarterback too. I will give him full credit that he's not going to be a Heisman finalist, right? But if they keep winning, he's going to keep being mentioned because he's putting up good numbers. Sorsby.
Yeah, no, I think he was leading rusher last week against what did just be? I forget. But he had 96 yards, 13 carries. I think it was. Yeah, so that's a lot of carries. And he's a big dude, which I think, yeah, I'd probably rather have as a big runner or a big quarterback that's good at running versus a small quarterback. I think the smaller, quicker ones have given us more problems than. I mean, Mariota was bad, but no, this guy, I'm looking at, he looks like a baseball player, tall white boy. He'll probably have some wheels, but he's big. I think he'll be willing to. I don't think he don't look like he slides. So not a slider. Let's hit him. Right, don't have breakaway speed. I don't think. But we just need to beat him up. I think we need to hit him hard when he does run. Yeah, definitely mix up our looks and then shoot. They want to go a lot of RPO. I think we'll probably have to play a good amount of one high. So you got one guy, who's responsible for that slot, running a slant off the play action. Cover two, that's where I think, two high stuff, that's where you got a guy halfway to the slot and midpoint in the tackle in the slot. Right now on run, he half his responsibilities pass, half's run. That's when, he starts to sneak, and then you pull and throw right behind his head. One high, those guys on the slot don't even have to watch the run action. So I think you'll see a lot of that's our OG stuff. A lot of cover one, cover three. Wouldn't be surprised to see some heat, some zero. But yeah, no, I think Scally needs to be, aggressive and quick with his calls and just let the boys play fast. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna be a big matchup game. Like win your matchup when they do RPOs. Right, we just got to win our matchups and hey, we defeat the run. You guys babysit this guy, make sure it's not an RPO.
Yeah, and just a point that I want to make because we want to start winding this down, get you guys' predictions, and get just a couple over-unders, get you guys out of here. But one thing that I had heard from more than one person this last weekend is that Morgan Scally was a lot more involved and talkative with everybody on the sidelines, not just defense, right? Just going up, encouraging the offense, talking them through things and so on and so forth. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think I know that Morgan will talk to everybody on the team, right? But is that typical for him, or is that something that he's probably just making that much more of an emphasis on, especially after that BYU game, and then also knowing that he's the heir apparent, he's the next guy up?
Probably 50-50, I would assume. Obviously, I can't recall my time, how many times Scally would have done something like that. Especially when it comes to like the offensive players, obviously the special teams, I'm sure he would. Obviously the defense, especially he's got a hand in that as well. Things of that nature. But, even if it's something new, right? And Blake probably can answer that a lot more than me, but even if it's something new, right, it's still a good thing to be able to do that, because if it's next year or the year after, right, some of these guys are probably still going to be on your roster, right? And it just allows you to just because those are things head coaches do, right? They go over to every side of the ball and they just give you a quick encouragement type thing or a quick little motivation, quick little kick in the butt, maybe whatever it is, right? Like so, just him doing that this past weekend, right? Even if it's new, it's still a really good thing because it has to become natural for you, right? Because like obviously there's been the whole thing about is it Brian Kelly, guys got fired for LSU?
Yep.
Yeah. And how unauthentic he was, right? And how quickly players can we're all human, right? Like and as players, definitely we can tell exactly and when you're bullshitting, right? Like we can tell when a coach is like, nah, I'm not believing nothing he's talking about, or things of that nature, right? Like it's fake juice. It's not really, legit. Like he don't really, you know what I mean? Like all those type of things. Like you can tell, like your coaches that, all right, if this coach say something right now, like all right, I'm with it. If this coach say something, I'm not listening to what bro talking about, right? Like it's all the time, right? So even if he's not done it before, like I said, it's still a really good thing to be able to start getting that practice and doing those different things because it's not a coordinator. Like you're the leader of men, right? Like so when guys look at you, they gotta truly trust you and believe in you in every type of way. And I believe they will because like I said, I've never heard anybody who's played under Scally on that defensive side of the ball, specifically, obviously his safety crew. I've never heard them guys say anything, negative about Scally getting them ready for games, preparedness, all those type of things. Like it's always been really good. So, hopefully that thing can just, manifest over the entire team whenever he does take over.
For sure. All right, guys. So I'm going to ask you the score predictions in a second here. One thing I did want to point out to you guys, obviously Utah's strength is their rushing offense. 65th in the country for Cincinnati. That's something you definitely want to target, right? And Utah is probably going to come above their average. Now, at the same time, too, their pass defense is actually a little bit more vulnerable. Okay, so their pass efficiency defense, 87th in the country. Okay, and then on top of that, another kind of interesting one that might not be fully paid attention to, but then when you have the backfield that Utah has and the mobility Utah has at quarterback. Okay, Cincinnati is 104th in the country when it comes to tackles for loss. So that is one of those low-key stats right there that you might be sitting back and looking at like, oh, Utah's quarterbacks might be in for a pretty damn good day if that's the case. So
yeah. I mean, stat-wise, it makes sense for us to have an efficient night. We are an efficient team, so those numbers don't bode well when you're trying to go up against a team that is efficient. Like we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, right? When it comes to turning over the ball and things of that nature, like we do a pretty good job at that. So, like I said, I have confidence that we will come out there and do what we got to go do. And now obviously when you put those stats on top of that, that gives me even more confidence. So hopefully, when we get back on this thing on Sunday for the recap, we're talking about how these guys executed and, attack those things. And, it's all praise for Beck and Coach Scally and Coach Witt and all those guys putting the team in a position now to go run the table. Because, like we said, every single game the rest of the season is a Super Bowl type of a game, right? Like, you lose one, you're most likely not going to get that shot. So you want to be able to put yourself at the table and, that you got to go run it now.
Cool. All right, guys. So let's get your predictions. We'll do the over-unders and boom, we're done.
I got I got 30, 38, 38-21. 38-17. 38-17.
Dang, Bleck's going for a blowout, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Damn, I like it. I like it. All right. That's going bold there, buddy. I'll take it.
Is that bold?
38.
Guy's never been to Rice Eccles.
They don't know the type of atmosphere that they're in for. You're correct. You know, we got to say just Utah after dark now instead of, you know, the old Pac-12 after dark that we used to love. You know, here and touted, right? But yeah, Utah after dark is a completely different animal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll go 35 24.
35-24.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the quarterback can make just enough plays for them to give them a few more points. But 35-24, they are a good team. Like, I don't want people to watch this and think we are underestimating these guys in any way. Like,
right.
When you win 7 straight games, like, they've hung up 70 on the team. Now, it was a smaller school or whatever, but still, you got to go do it. And they hung up 70 on these dudes. So, and I think they scored 41 or 49 last week versus Oklahoma State. So you're talking about still playing some really good teams, some teams with some respect, I should say, right, when it comes to Oklahoma State. So, but I'll go 35-24 for us. I think our fans are definitely going to be on point, right? You know, it's another night game. It's what we do best, and you got to go take full advantage of it for sure.
Cool. You know, I struggle going back and forth with mine, right? Because, you know, you look at all these different things that like makes it so it's a higher score, right? I mean, Sorsby's very good with the ball. Like, he does not turn the ball over. He's got let's see here, 20 touchdowns to 1 interception on the year, right? He's only been sacked twice.
Jeez.
You know, and so yeah, so he's smart with it, right? They do have a good scoring defense. Now, I expect Utah to get past it. You know, and so I'm gonna go. True. You know what? I'm gonna say I'm not gonna go the blowout that Bleck's talking about, okay? But I am gonna go that Utah scores a decent amount of points because, you know, again, Utah after dark. You know, Cincinnati does not know what they're dealing with, and the guys are playing pissed off. You saw that last week, so I'm gonna go Utah 41. And then let's go Cincinnati 30. So Cincinnati can put
points.
Fast.
41-30.
Cincinnati can put the points up fast. Their time of possession is really low for the amount of points they put up. You know, and so it could there could be some decent fireworks. And you know, again, Utah's defense over the years has struggled at times, plenty of times with the mobile quarterbacks, with the RPOs. So let's see, guys, over unders, and then we are out of here. So, all right, like I said, Sorsby, okay, he's only got 1 interception on the year, 20-1 touchdown interception ratio. Okay, so over under Utah causing 2 turnovers.
I'll go over.
Whoa. So 1 or 3? I needed 2.5 or 1.5 to over under on.
So
I'll go over. I think like you just made some real intriguing points there. Obviously, time possession. I mean, they're getting that ball in scoring points really fast. And they're efficient and they're explosive. And that's one thing I do fear is an explosive offense. So, I mean, we're probably going to try to keep the ball away from them as much as we can. So if we can do that, right, I think if we're able to get 2 turnovers, that only is going to allow us to win the game, you know, and make me feel better overall. So I'll go over 2 just because if we can do that, if we can make a team who has not really turned the ball over at all, essentially, and the guy who hasn't really gotten sacked either, right? If we can do that, then yeah, it's gonna be a great night. So I'll go over.
Let's hear it, Brian.
So you going 3 turnovers? I'll go 2. I'll go right at, not over, not under 2. Since you set it up like this, I'll go with 2.
You're going right on. All right. Oh gosh, but I gotta go over. I gotta go over because I do think that Utah's the defense is gonna get him to throw another pick. From there, I expect them causing fumbles, man. They're gonna be flying at them. So same time too, they're down their home run hitter running backs. So they're gonna have to go into the depth chart a little bit. So I'll take the over on that, and then over under, whether it's Bird, whether it's Dampier, over under 75 yards rushing.
Like for the quarterback?
Yeah, Dampier and Bird.
Okay, but not team rushing, right?
Yeah, just whether it's Dampier.
Sure. No, I think I got what you're saying now. I think over.
Yeah, I'll go over. Over easy.
Either one of them boys are gonna be playing their ass off and getting fueled by the after dark Rice Eccles environment, man. It was pretty nice last week. So I think they like playing that 8-15 when it's at home. It's nice. So yeah, I think they'll be showing out whoever runs the ball.
Over for sure.
I'm gonna and I want to agree with you guys. I'm gonna go under on this one. I'm gonna say that it's one of the running backs that's gonna be getting the 100 yards. Maybe it's the quarterbacks going over the 75 and a running back hitting the 100 mark. But Utah's done a good job these last 2 games finally getting the running backs over that 100-yard mark, and I expect that to continue. So
yeah, my only thing is I don't know if they have the volume. These dudes, those 2 backs don't get the ball really, man. I think Bird had, I want to say maybe damn near 20 carries, which is crazy. Man, me and Beck would have had a lot of conversations about the quarterback running the ball more than myself, because now you playing with my future at the same time. But yeah, that's my only pushback on yours. I was like, damn, I would love to see, because I said it earlier, right? Park can go get another 100+ game, but stack those things up, right, in the year off. But I just don't see the volume, man. Like, they don't get the volume, even in a blowout win, right? Like, Parker didn't get I don't think he got over 15 carries. So, but we'll see, right? Hopefully it's everybody 75+ for either quarterback.
Yeah, he got excuse me. He got Way got 10 carries. Bird got 20.
In a blowout, man. In a blowout.
Crazy.
That's gonna be, look, I'm not a selfish person, man, but my goodness.
Yeah. And Nakari got 8. So
yeah, I'm not going to practice all week, and then
the 1-2
you
punch
ask
got
me
18
to block
and
somebody.
Bird had 20.
I get that it's definitely an analytical offense when it comes to the standpoint of the quarterback run game, because when I was in Buffalo, we did the same thing, right? We talk about the numbers, right? When you run the ball with a running back, you're a number short, right? Versus if you can get the running back out and go block, now the quarterback's got to be one guy, right? So I get it from that standpoint. It's rough if you're running back and you happen to play with dudes in their case, dudes that are very dynamic with their legs at the same time. Give me the guy who can't move. Shit.
Brian, there's some words that we can let fly on here, but anytime somebody's watching this and they see my head go down and it's staying down for a second, I'm writing, yep, this is the timestamp. Zach just said something.
Oh, you're writing it down.
Gotta get it in there somehow.
Well, you know what, guys? It's been a long one. Hell, I might even just cut this into 2 parts for everybody, because a lot of good stuff on this, and appreciate you guys as always. Zach, before we kick into what I have you tell everybody, closing everything out, Brian, man, I want you to let everybody know what you got going.
This week we've been meeting about the future of the Islanders, what we're looking at for this offseason. And no, the owner, liked the job I did this year, so I'm gonna be a part of it. And I don't know, it sounds like we're gonna be doing some training of our own out of our spot in Harriman. So we'll see. Me and myself, trained pretty much every position but D line, O line. I wouldn't say I'm no D1 receiver coach, but if it's a kid in middle school to elementary, I can get that kid running a lot better routes. But yeah, no, for me right now, it's just been all about the Islanders. And yeah, I'm excited because shoot, at this point we've got high school seniors sending us their film and stuff, wanting to join the Islanders. So I'm excited to be able to build a bigger roster. This year was kind of last minute, so we rolled out and beat teams with 38 guys on the bus. So I'm excited to get a full offseason development and be able to recruit, kind of go hand pick guys we like, guys that fit us, and build a full roster going into next year, because I want revenge against Snow. They beat us 59-7.
Yeah, and you were the defensive coordinator, buddy. I remember us talking about that. But remind everybody
days.
What happened to a team like a week or two later.
I might be OC next year. We'll see.
Remind everybody what happened with the team like a week or two later, just off of watching that film.
Oh, some team we were playing. I don't even remember their name. But they were up in California, D3, and they didn't want to play us because they said our D line was just too physical, our defense was too rough. Off of us getting whooped by 59-7 by Snow. So no, I was glad. I had watched their tape and I was like, bro, I hope they cancel, please. Like, I don't want to go on a 12-hour bus ride to play these guys. Like, it won't be fun. And then they backed out, so it was nice because they were terrible. But just go, dude. There's all, like Zach said earlier, there's all types of coaches, even at college level. Just because we're junior college, should a D3 be better than us? Yes, but there's so many out there that I'm just like, man, I feel bad for them because you could tell they're not, and it starts with the coaches, but their coaches aren't putting in the time to where, we played a team this year, Zach, we went into it, and I'm like, look, I know we don't have all 7 of their games this season. I had eyes on about 3 of them, yeah. And in those games, there wasn't one run where the running back was on either side of the quarterback, they only ran out of pistol, and there wasn't one pass where the running back was in pistol. So yeah, we and they would come out and he's behind, and then all right, come on, bud, and then you move him here, say go, like, or he would stay back there and it'd be a run. So. Yeah. We had a play call, and I said, guys, every time, we're blitzing like this to this formation, we're blitzing like this, we're sending 0 every time. If they bring them up, we know based on formation what we'll check to, and we'll check to an actual zone or man. But other than that, we just send 0 at them. And then by the end of the first quarter, like their, I think, 4th drive, they started switching it up. They finally threw a pass out of pistol, and I'm just like, dude, like, it took them, we're like their 6th game, and it took me to make them finally break pattern. Like, what's wrong with these other coaches that they were playing?
Yeah, sheesh.
But all right,
that's crazy.
All right, Zach.
Appreciate you.
Let's close it out. Appreciate you, Brian, man.
We got Zach. My bad. Let's do it.
No, just closing it out here, buddy.
Should I bow my head?
No, come on, man. Hey, if you bow it, you can have more hair on top than me.
Hey, bro, last week they freaking resurfaced me and Nate in the ice bath when I was like, you could baptize me in the ice bath. I'm not scared of this. I'm not scared of this ice water. You can dunk me all the way in there. So he did it, and then of course they turned it into we're making fun of BYU, and I'm like, what? Like, no, I was just showing that, like, I'm the biggest dog in the ice bath. That's all. But that resurfaced last week. I was dying.
That's too funny, man. Let's hear it,
No,
Zach.
yeah, thank you guys for continuing to always getting in and listening to us. Make sure you continue to, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, man. This is the best place to get all your Utah football information, and we appreciate it. Go Utes.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome to the players' lounge. Yeah. When no other moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they envious. And they the ones that be grinning and acting the friendliest. Yeah. Things are moving in the right direction. Making sure I'm keeping things up in the right perspective.